Today, I have a package from Choosing Keeping that I want to share with you. This video is quite jam-packed, so I'm going to be leaving timestamps for your convenience, and I'll get into a Speedpaint soon, but before that, it's been a while since I reviewed and featured a company that I really loved. And many of you gave me feedback that you wanted to see more product reviews, so I reached out to one of my favorite companies called Choosing Keeping to see if they would be willing to send some art supplies for me to show to you. Choosing Keeping is a really special stationery store based in London, and they're known for their beautiful handmade journals and diaries and their large selection of writing utensils, while also boasting an impressive curation of unique office goods and high-quality art supplies. Based on their product selections, it's clear that they built their collection around research and a passion to revive a traditional past, while also bringing a sort of new vitality to their line by producing their own items as well. We can see an example of the whimsical and personal nature of this independent business by taking a look at the packaging. Each parcel is packed by hand, and you can really see the care and attention that goes into each individual one. I've ordered from Choosing Keeping time and time again, both for my personal indulgence and also to purchase gifts for family, friends, and every time I do, the packaging is always packed the way that you're going to see here in this video. Each parcel is wrapped in Italian Florentine paper that can be reused for bookbinding, scrapbooking, decoupage, anything you want, and everything came tied together in this incredibly soft Swiss satin ribbon, and each art product was individually wrapped in its own unique paper. Even the shipping label, which I unfortunately had to cover to protect my address, was inked with hand calligraphy. I also just love the extra touch of care they include with their bird stickers onto all of the packages. So the first item that I've pulled out are two Choosing Keeping pencils, one in silver, which is an HB, and one in gold, which is 2B. These pencils are made from pure cedar and are great for writing and sketching. Here we have two Japanese paintbrushes. These are awesome. The green one is a stiff brush that holds a lot of water, more suited for washes and covering greater surface area, and the pink one is slimmer, more for detail work, and is also suitable for calligraphy. next item is the Aquarella Watercolour paper, and I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that, but in this pad there are 20 sheets of 300-gram heavyweight, acid-free Italian paper that's suitable for watercolor, heavy media, and other crafts. And this paper, the moment that I tried it, I fell in love with it. I know that in my recent videos I've been testing out new watercolor papers, but I think that this paper trumps all of them. For my personal taste, I really love the texture. To me, it feels like an in-between of cold pressed and hot pressed paper, but more leaning to the smoother side. And it feels so good to paint on and accepts all mediums without any issues. I'm going to try to get my hands on some more, including the bigger size they sell, so that I can bind some sketchbooks with it, and you're going to see me use this paper later on for the speed paint. Then we have the Zecchi Lapis Lazuli single watercolor pan. I am so excited to see that Choose in Keeping carries this paint because Zecchi is a family-owned company based in Florence that sells hand-filled paints and natural pigments. The paint is mixed in Tuscany and has very simple ingredients, which is crucial to having this maximum vibrancy. The color I received is Lapis Lazuli, which is a brilliant pure blue. Here we have the Japanese retro 1970s watercolor set. I've tried out Gonzai paints before on this channel, but this set comes with very unique colors that I have never tried before. It comes with 8 different shades, and I'm excited to show you all how I use this for the speed paint. They also sell a 1960s and a 1980s version of the set that I'm tempted to check out. The first thing that I wanted to do was to show you how I go about bringing in new brushes. So most brushes are often shipped with water-soluble glue that protects the brush bristles during shipping. I never try to break the dry bristles free since that can really damage the brush, and instead I like to rinse the glue out by swirling the brush in water and having the pressure of the water slowly do the work. If you find that that's taking too long, you can of course use your fingers to kind of gently ease that process. Next, I prepped the pencils by sharpening them, and to be honest, the sharpener that I had on hand was a really terrible one, so you're going to see that the pencil didn't sharpen so nicely. I ended up just hand sharpening them later, but I was more interested in seeing how they would act on the Aquarella watercolor paper. Because the paper has a smooth surface, I had an easy time laying down the lines without having to worry about the surface texture eating away at the lead too much. And even though the paper is pretty smooth, it still gave a bit of feedback during the sketching experience, which I really enjoyed. I'm testing the Lapis Lazuli pan from Zecchi. There was actually a time when I used to use a similar color from a different brand in a lot of my architecture sketches, so I'm really happy to own this pan. Lapis Lazuli is an extremely expensive and vibrant blue, and I could really feel how high quality this paint was. I actually had the very fortunate opportunity to visit Florence for one day, and while studying abroad in Rome, I remember that the Zecchi store was one of the places that I really wanted to visit. But when I went, the store was closed for a few hours, and I don't remember the reason why, but I was on a super strict schedule because I was with my class and we only had an hour break, so I wasn't able to go. But if I could go again, I would totally buy this color and so many others because it is such a lovely paint to work with. So then I tested the 1970s Japanese watercolor set. The set is so interesting and kind of weird, but I love it. The colors work really well together, and even though you can use them like watercolors and get thin translucent washes, you'll see that in the Speedpaint I ended up using them more like gouache. The set comes with 3 different yellows, a grayish green, a deep gray, and 2 blues, one kind of like a sky blue and one being more marine, and 1 magenta. The color palette sort of reminded me of a CMYK palette with an addition of 2 neutral colors. Here I'm testing out how opaque and translucent the paints can get. And these tests were all done on Aquarella paper, and I also tried out other mediums on a small sample of that same paper. So I moved on to experimenting more with the paints in my Holbein mixed media sketchbook because I wanted to save that aquarella paper. Here I was testing out how the paints in the 1970 set could mix together, and I found that the unique colors really lends itself to fun color combinations. Using that darker blue and the lightest yellow, I was able to get this gorgeous green color. So with this practice run, I was interested in seeing how the paints would kind of layer on top of each other, as well as seeing if the lighter colors would be opaque enough to add highlights and smaller details to the drawing. It was easy to achieve a level of depth with the paint, and many of the lighter colors, like the lightest yellow, the green-gray, and the light blue, were great for adding opaque highlights. So let's get into the speed paint. I'm returning to the Aquarella paper for this. I used the choose and keeping pencils to sketch out the composition and wanted to challenge myself to only use the 1970s watercolor set for this piece. I'm painting the facade of an apartment that I saw in Koreatown here in Los Angeles, and although I'm using a thin wash to lay down the initial coat of paint onto the paper, you'll see that throughout the process, I used the paints more like wash, and I was laying down thick layers to build up the scene. It was really easy to mix the paints to any color I really wanted, especially the greens that you'll see. The brush that I found myself using the most was the one with the pink handle. I really loved this brush because it was so easy to get a precise thin line while also laying down a good area of color. Not that I didn't like the green brush, but I think that that brush would act great for a larger piece since it can hold so much water. It was just that the pink brush did everything that I wanted for the piece I was making. To be honest, maybe around this time while I was painting, I had no idea where this painting was going and how it was going to turn out. The colors were so different from what I typically would reach for, so I wasn't sure if the piece was going to turn out great. But I pushed through the end and ended up being surprised by how well the colors worked with each other. I think that's the benefit of having a limited palette, because in the end, the resulting painting kind of has this cohesive quality to it because you're using such few colors. see here that the opaque quality of the paints came in handy when I wanted to loosen up the foliage of the trees, both against the building and in the foreground. I took the same colors that I used for the building and the sky to kind of eat away at the edges of the leaves, and that really helped with letting the drawing breathe a little. So in the end, I actually brought some colored pencils to do some final touch-ups on the trees that are in the foreground. But that's it otherwise. Thank you so much for watching, and a huge thank you to Choosing Keeping for the art supplies. I will honestly treasure them forever. I fully recommend that you go to their website and their Instagram and explore all of the different treasures that they have. The links to everything that you saw here today, plus the Choosing Keeping website and Instagram, will be in the description box below. They ship worldwide, so I hope that you're able to support them and experience your own little stationery paradise. I'll be back with a new video soon, and thank you so much for watching.